Okay. Good morning, Amira. Hope everybody's good today. And again, a lot of you dropped on later, so I hope that you ladies who are moms had a great Mother's Day, had some time for yourself to just relax. Okay, let's get started. Today we're going to talk about, because with all the stuff that's gone on, let's talk about how to really protect the relationships that are most important to us. And the reason I want to talk about it is because, I was talking to my sister on Sunday, and she was saying that, she really sees a lot of couples and families really getting close in a different way and spending time together, and really feels hopeful that at the end of all this, we come out of this with our relationships being better and stronger. And I really hope that's true. But I also know that's not going to happen across the board. I hope that happens more often than not. But again, I don't think it's going to be across the board. I think this is probably going to put a lot of strain on relationships too. And even if things are good, you still have moments of stress, right? Where you want to bring next. So, whichever way it goes, I hope there's more of the good that comes out of it. But whether you're struggling or whether things are wonderful, I still want to talk about some things that you can do anyway to just really work on strengthening your relationships, because this is a whole different world we're in. And we've talked about this before. There is nothing right now that's predictable. We have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. We have no idea where we're going to be a month from now. When things aren't predictable and you don't know what's going to happen, well, if you don't know what's going to happen, you can't start to plan how you're going to react to those things that happen. And if you're in that position where you don't know how you're going to react, we've talked about this before, you've lost control. You don't feel like you have no control. You've lost any control you have in your life and in that situation. That is a big source of stress, is knowing that you have absolutely no control and you don't even know what's going to be happening. So you have to work on relationships, because everybody in your house, everybody in your life is experiencing this differently, but they're all experiencing it on different levels and with different levels of stress and panic and fear. So first relationship I want to talk about, and this is the most important, this is your relationship with yourself. And we've talked about that more than once. We've talked about self-care and how you really have to take care of yourself first. That's true. You know that the mood you're in is quickly going to affect everyone around you. So you have to be really protective of that. Be really protective of yourself and make sure you give yourself what you need. Now, I was listening to a podcast this week, and shout out to Rosie Keene, because she just told me about this podcast, and it's one of my favorite podcasts. It's called How I Built This. And you should definitely listen sometime, because this guy interviews all different kinds of business people, small entrepreneurs, big business. I mean, Michael Dell from Dell Computers, and the guy who created Instagram, and, big people, and then smaller businesses that turned into big businesses, but, that you never even heard of. But the stories are so inspiring, because no matter who you look at, whether it's, Mark Zuckerberg or whoever you look at, the journey to their success, we know, is not like this. It's not a straight line just catapulting them to the top. But we don't hear about all the struggles. We don't hear about all the hardships and how many times it would have been so much easier to just pack it in and walk away. And to hear these stories of people who just really, really just kept going and kept pushing and kept working and pushing hard toward what they wanted. Just so much inspiration, so much fun to listen to. But right now he's got a little series going calling How I Built Resilience. And it's specifically dealing with this time. How are business people being resilient in this time? And something one of the women said that really pertains to protecting relationships today, mostly protecting the relationship with yourself, taking care of yourself first, is, stay with me, she said, every day I make sure I go for a morning walk. Sometimes I go in the morning, sometimes I go in the afternoon, sometimes I go in the evening, because she's not talking about a morning walk morning being the time of day, but morning being in mourning, MOURNING. To take time for herself every day to just let the fear and the sadness and the mourning and the loss. I mean, we're all experiencing loss, you know. Did anybody get to spend Mother's Day totally the way they usually do? You know, how many kids missed graduation? How many kids aren't in sports right now? There's so many things. There's so many losses in our life right now. So every day she takes time, either for a morning walk, a morning peace, you know, a time where she just sits and she just lets that go through her, lets herself experience it. But it's important to acknowledge it and experience it and then leave it there and move on and refocus your direction now toward your day, toward your structure, toward positive things, because you gave that space and now you can put it away. Like I've heard so many people saying, like we've said here, you can experience it and go through it, but don't live there. Don't just park and live there. Move away from it as soon as you can. So acknowledge that it's real, face it, and then move away from it. So she does this morning walk every day, which I thought was awesome. And then as you move away from that, remember every day to do something or multiple things to make sure you're feeding yourself mentally, emotionally, physically. Do something every day to make sure you're taking care of yourself. You know, happy wife, happy life. If you're not happy, if you're in pain, if you're fearful and you're living in that place, you know that's going to affect everyone you come in contact with. And if you're home right now with a spouse, with kids, and you've got a house full, that's a lot of people to impact. And you know, when you impact them, it's not just, oh, now we have double the frustration. It's exponential. The growth of it is exponential. So what is a molehill at one point, and it's not a molehill, but I'm calling it a molehill only because maybe it's only affecting you at this moment. As soon as it starts affecting everybody else, it becomes this huge mountain. And then your whole family, your whole household is going to be living under all this heaviness. So take care of yourself first, okay? Next, relationship. And stick with me because everybody on this call doesn't have or experience all these relationships. But the bottom line is, we're going to talk about your spouse or significant other next. If you don't have a spouse or significant other, these are just relationship tools that you can use in any relationship you have. So first off, acknowledge the fact that the very things that drew you to your spouse, the very things you loved most about them when you met them, are very, very likely the things that now drive you the most crazy about them, right? Think about it, okay? Think about when you met them, just like, he's so manly, he's so strong. And now it's like, I wish he was more sensitive. Or you loved the fact that he was so sensitive, and now you hate the fact that he's not more of a man. Or, you know, you love that he's so funny and he makes you laugh. Now it's like, oh my gosh, can we ever have a serious conversation? Right? Think about it. And listen, ladies, remember, probably the same goes both ways. It's probably the same with how we were with them then versus now. So acknowledge that those things that drive you crazy are probably the things that drew you to that person. And that's important to talk about because we're going to talk about that a little bit more. Remember the next thing, and that is that they're going through this too. You're not the only one going through this, but a lot of times when you're going through something, you get in this hole and you forget that there's this whole world out there and they're all experiencing this too, albeit in different ways. And believe me, if you're in a relationship and it's a man-woman relationship, it truly is Mars and Venus. Don't ever forget that. You are living with someone who came from a different planet. Honestly, the truth of that is like so profound, but it's really true. They are never going to think like a woman. They're most likely, you know, unless they are way more in touch with their feminine side. But for the most part, they don't think like you. They don't respond like you. But they do think and respond to things differently. So just because maybe you don't see them stressed out, you don't see them being sad, you don't see them reacting to this the same way you do, doesn't mean they're not going through it too. They're going through it and it's just as heavy for them in different ways. In some cases, you know, they don't even have a job. They've been furloughed. And so when you take that away from a man, it's very much the feeling of a man that he's got to take care of his family. And that's where so many men find their self-worth. And if they don't have that, their egos are just like totally decimated. They're going through all that, and that's deep and that's heavy. But is he likely to show it? Are you likely to see it? Probably not. He may be quiet and just like doing his own thing. This is when men go into their man cave, whether it's physical or just mental. They have to go in their space and just get through it. They don't want to sit and talk about it for hours. They just need to get through it. But don't think for a minute that they're not going through this and experiencing their own crap in this whole situation. So what do you do with that? Okay, here's what I really suggest you do with it. And it's just a couple things. Sit down at some point today, if you can, and make a list. Try and shoot for 10. Maybe you'll have more. Maybe you'll have 5. Doesn't matter. But write down the things that drew you to your significant other. What are the best things about them? Even if they're the things that drive you crazy today. I mean, I'm telling you, with my husband, one of the things that really attracted me to him was that he was so confident. He is confident right to the point of being cocky. And I love that. I love being with somebody who's really competent, really smart. But again, now that translates sometimes into me feeling like he's a know-it-all. He never gives space for anybody else to be right? So here's how the thing that you love turns into sometimes the bigger struggles. But think back to when you were attracted to that person. What were the things? Because when I still think about that, that is still something I totally love about him, and I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. Even though, again, the flip side of it makes me crazy sometimes, it's still like one of the biggest things that drew me to him. So make a list of the things that drew you to that person, the very best things about them. And that's it. Just write it once. But every day, when you have finished your morning, if you want to go through that, if you need to go through a time where you just sit and feel the heaviness and then let it go, after you've felt the heaviness, just pull out the list and look at it and read it. That's simple. But what does it do? It reminds you, it gives you that, it stirs things and gives you that good feeling about that person again. And it starts the day off on a positive note. If you walk out into the kitchen and the kitchen's a mess because everybody made a mess and made breakfast and just left the mess for you, you're just going to be a little step ahead of that because you're going to be coming into it with a positive feeling. You're not going to be coming into it already empty and already feeling just really depleted of any emotional energy to face your day. So start the day positive. So that's a good thing. And then another thing you could do is make sure you find time. Doesn't have to be every day. Every few days, once a week if you have to, but just find time to do something together that you enjoy doing together. These are 2 things that are really going to strengthen your relationship. Okay, next thing is talking about kids. If you have kids at home, Jane Deegan, who's in this group, and I'm not sure if she's on or not because you guys have jumped in, and with all the moving around on my phone, I can't see all your names because I'm nearsighted and it's too far away. But Jane posted something not too long ago on Facebook, and it was something that a teacher had written. And it was talking about how kids are going through this. And the teacher said she was starting to get really frustrated because, her good students weren't turning in papers. They weren't doing anything that they should do and they should normally be doing. And why weren't they doing their work? She didn't feel like she was giving them that much, but they weren't doing what they were supposed to do. And these were her good students. So it really was starting to frustrate her until she saw her own kids really struggling. And listen, again, number 1, recognize that even the kids are going through this. And again, Mars, Venus with the men and women, but even with kids, we're just still, needing to remember that everybody who's going through this is going through it differently. So it's not going to look the way it looks to you. The way you're going through it isn't how you're going to recognize it in other people. So you have got to look deeper. And if you don't even find it, that's okay. But just accept that it's there, accept that people are struggling, and even your kids. I mean, your kids have had all structure taken away. We're suddenly trying to teach our kids how to manage their time and how to structure their time and do this and do that. Should they even have to do that? I mean, kids have that done for them. We do it for them as parents. Their teachers do it for them in school. And now we need them to just do all that on their own. They're not equipped. They're not equipped to do all that. And then some of our older kids have jumped in with both feet, and they're some of our essential workers. We've got some of our older kids working in grocery stores, working in public places, in retail, where they're in touch with people all the time, and then they've got to deal with the stress of that and maybe any fear they have about this. Man, it's all around them. And again, they're missing out. They're not with their friends. They're missing out on their sports. They're missing out on graduation and prom and so many things. So just don't forget, they're going through a hard time. And little kids, you might not see it as much. Maybe you just see it because they're acting out. But they're acting out because their world's upside down too. And believe me, whatever you're feeling, they know you're feeling, and they're feeling it too. It's going to affect them. So be sensitive to that. First, just really be sensitive to the fact that they're struggling with this too. I suggest that you do the same thing you do with your husband, and you make a little list of the absolute best, strongest points that each one of your children have. And then in the morning, every morning, when you're reading the list of the things that you love about your husband and that drew you to your spouse or your significant other, go over the list of the things you wrote down about your kids too. And just remind yourself how amazing these people are that you live with. You chose these people in your life. You didn't you didn't meet your kids and choose them, obviously, but my gosh, you know what I'm saying. These are your people. So there's so much you love about them, and so much, at least you did once, and remind yourself of that. And then remind yourself of that every day. Get that day off with a positive start and a heart full of love for these people who are the most important people in your life. The schoolwork, I can't say for sure, but honestly, I've seen this other little blurb that was written and passed around that was written by a teacher. I don't know if this is going to be across the board, but again, I can't imagine it's not. But she's like, don't worry about the schoolwork. If they don't get it done, they don't get it done. I cannot imagine anybody is going to fail anybody if they don't do what they were supposed to do getting through this. Catch them up in the fall. They will do whatever they have to do to get them back on board, but there are a lot more important things to deal with right now. Again, back to Jane, when she posted this article about the article that the teacher wrote, she was saying they're doing things together as a family. They're watching a bird build its nest. They're going for walks. Focus on what your kids need right now, and don't sweat the schoolwork that much. It's not that it's not important, and if you can do it, great. Just don't make it such a big deal that you drive them to, total frustration at the same time. If they are scared and fearful, encourage them, same as yourself, to find time to sit in that space and be sad. And maybe you can do it together, but let them deal with it. But it's a great life lesson to teach them how to sit in that space and experience what they have to go through, but then to now turn it around, like, okay, we're finished with that. Now we're going to put that on the shelf, and now we're going to move towards something positive, and we're going to get on with our day. See, Lori's a teacher, and Lori said, yes, don't worry about the school work. As a society, we are so academic focused. Isn't that the truth? That's a whole other topic. Don't even get me started. But she's right. Focus on what they need right now. And that's not the biggest thing they need right now. And again, just like with your spouse or significant other, find some time to do some fun stuff together, which I see so many of you doing, and I so commend you. I'm watching the family time, even with just a lot of the ladies in this group, and I so commend you for everything you're doing. Colleen says, dealing with pass-fail question and AP exams. It's stressful for both of you, for parents and kids. And Colleen's just saying, do your best, and whatever it is, we'll make it work. Perfect attitude. Just give them the peace and the feeling that, okay, this is going to be okay. No matter what it is, if I can't do my schoolwork, if I can only do this much, and then I've just got to watch TV the rest of the day, support them in whatever they need. Okay. So perfect response, Colleen. Bunny, within the last 10 days, 3 different friends said they thought they knew each other, yet now long-time friendships have broken. That's pretty sad, and I don't even know what that whole story is, but after that, I wanted to move on to family and friends, and this sounds like it's talking about friendships, and I can guess a lot of relationships are being broken right now because this is such an emotional situation for so many people. And there are 2 totally opposite sides of the fence. and there's a whole lot of room because it's a really wide fence on the fence. And people are so passionate about what they feel is going on and how they feel we should all be reacting to it, that when you get real passionate about something, you can't understand why others can't see your same point of view. And so that frustration is just, it's disheartened me so much in how much intolerance and hatred I have seen among friends who just can't tolerate an opposite opinion because they don't understand how anybody could be so stupid to not feel the same way they feel and see the facts the same way they see them. Whoops, I'm sorry. Exactly, Bunny. So be patient with each other. We do have different opinions. It doesn't mean you're stupid because you totally don't agree with me. Perspective, ladies. It's that we're looking at the same thing, but we have a totally different perspective about it and totally different understanding about it and what should be done. So even though I might not be able to understand why you can't see things the way I do, that's just human to feel that way. I'm not going to make any judgment about you because of that, because you probably would feel the same way about me. So whatever it is, we're seeing this differently, and we need to tolerate and be patient with each other. Perfectly said, Bunny. We need to be patient with each other because we're all gone through this. We're all suffering in different ways, whether you're suffering because you're so scared of the health aspect and you're suffering because you're so scared of the business aspect and of our economy collapsing. And we have so many different fears, and some of them are very opposing, but give each other grace, give each other patience, be tolerant. That who's right, who's wrong, who knows? Your perception is your reality. So that's reality to you. So let's just be patient with each other and tolerant of each other. Family, friends, again, remember, everybody's dealing with this differently. Be patient with them because you don't know how they're dealing with it or what's going on. If you're an introvert who doesn't feel like life is a whole lot different right now, be aware and remember your extrovert friends because they're probably really struggling, and reach out to them. And, whether it's a phone call or a Zoom call or a text, whatever it is you do, but just reach out to each other in the biggest way you can to support each other. Christine says, embrace the differences. Absolutely. Absolutely. How boring and ridiculous a world would it be if we were all the same? That's not what we want. So absolutely. You might not agree with me and I might not be able to understand why you can't, but that's what makes you different. And that's what brings so much value to who you are, is because we're each so unique and so different. So embrace that. It's important. So reach out to the family. Really spend some time reaching out to anybody that you really know is struggling, because you know what? It's going to help them, but it's really going to help you too. It's going to help you feel so much more peace when you've been able to embrace and be patient and be helpful to somebody else. So the bottom line, and in closing, no matter what the relationship is, whether it's friends, family, spouse, significant other, children, whatever it is, two most important things. We know how important it is anyway to try and start every day with gratitude. Okay, so get through your crap, experience your sadness, but then move right into gratitude so that when you start your day, the gratitude is fresh in your mind. So no matter who it is in your life, write a list today of the things that mean the most to you about those people, their biggest strengths, the most wonderful things about them. And then every day, it's going to take you like a minute to look at that list and just remind yourself of how special they are. And it's just going to start your day in the right frame of mind. And then make sure through this, you find time to do stuff together. Find time for the fun things, whether it's playing a game with a family, going for a walk, whatever it is, just find time to do stuff. Bunny, you need to be kind too. You're one of the kindest people I know, Bunny, but you're right. We all have to. And I say it and I preach it, but believe me, I struggle with it too. Like I said, I've been hiding things on Facebook. I can't even watch it because it gets me so angry, and I don't want to be angry, but I want people to be kind. I get angry because people aren't kind. Like, how dumb is that? But I just want us to be kinder to each other. We have to be tolerant. Me, and remind myself of that, and that I'm okay. Absolutely, Bunny. Absolutely. If you're going to take good care of yourself, boy, that's one of the most important things. And I didn't even think to address that. But when you're making these lists today, make a list for yourself too. What are your strengths? What is it that you bring to the world that nobody else brings? That, People look at you and make you different. But what are your strengths? And yes, remind yourself of them too. And remind yourself of that first. Because when you're good and when you're secure and you feel positive, it's going to affect everybody around you. So that's it. Do these things. And I don't care if we're in the middle of a pandemic or life goes back to what it was. These are still things that can improve your relationships every day. So I really challenge you, make your list today and start reading it every day. It's a great way to start the day. And that's it for this week. So great spending time with you. I will see you again next week. Have a great day, ladies. Bye.